If you are rank underdogs, red-hot favourites for relegation, then this might just help you a little. It's an underdog tactic which I'm using in my current save, and we are 4th in our first season in the Premier League. But I also tested it with everybody's favourites for relegation, Norwich, and they survived with a lot to spare. Let's go and kick some balls. Hello and welcome back to FM22 with Old Man Phil. And if you are new to the channel, then why not subscribe, like, watch and comment and help the channel to grow and help us to help others in this really worthwhile cause that you can see scrolling above. And this is something different today. We're going to be looking at a tactic for rank outsiders, for underdogs. And those of you following me will have seen that with my Swansea save, we are currently 4th in the Premier League. And we were predicted, media prediction was to finish 19th. Nobody gave us a chance. Fixtures were fairly friendly at the beginning, although we lost to Manchester City and Tottenham. And we were coming into a series of games against West Ham, first Manchester United at home second, and then very quickly Chelsea away. And I was worried that we were going to start plummeting down the table at this point. And I had to do something before coming into this series of games. I decided to just stay with the tactic that I was using, that had got me to 7th or 8th at that point. But I was being hammered, and some of you would have seen me do this during the game. And that made all the difference. We were holding on at 0-0 towards half-time. We had about 30% of possession. And just doing that, just before half-time, we managed to change the game around. And we actually came out and won the second half very easily and won the game by 2-0. I then took this tactic away and thought about it and tweaked it a little. And against Manchester United, we beat Manchester United by 1-0. And then we beat Chelsea away by the same score, by 1-0. And so I started to think that there might be something in this. And we followed that up. We went back to our original tactic, a more positive tactic, and then we beat Bristol City by 2-0. And that's why we are sitting quite nicely in the Champions League spots around about halfway through the season. Now, it is a tactic that requires some human involvement, but we have tested it with Norwich with just the tactic alone, and the results with Norwich are quite phenomenal. The tactic will get you to survive quite easily with something to spare, but if you add the human element, then who knows where you might end up, as is the case with Swansea. So when I tested it with Norwich, and as you can see, Norwich finished in 13th. And this, remember, is just the tactic alone. And I actually just spent a day at Norwich. You can see I didn't do anything in the transfer market. I just went in for one day and set up the tactic and then said, I'm going on holiday. You look after the shop here. And when I came back at the end of the season, everything was absolutely fabulous. You can see that I've got all my transfer budget is still there, and we have about £400,000 still to play with in the wage budget. I did nothing with the team except set up the tactic, go on holiday, come back, and everybody's very pleased with me. And wouldn't it be nice if we could get a job like that in real life? So I was very, very impressed that they managed to reach 13th position. But it's not a tactic which you are going to set the world on fire. And in fact, we played 38, won 10, lost 9, draw 9, and lost 19. But we only scored 42 goals. And we conceded 72 goals. So it's going to be not going to be very pretty. In terms of goals scored, we're right down there in 13th. But in terms of goal conceded, we are up there in 4th in the table. You don't concede many goals using this tactic, and that's what creates a problem for the opposition teams. And In terms of the team, if I can find where the team stats are for the season, I always have trouble finding this, but it's here somewhere. There it is. We'll go to team detailed. There's only one thing I'm really interested in, and that is right at the top here in terms of possession. And you can see that in terms of possession, we managed 50%, and we were 10th in the league in terms of possession. And it's this that's made all the difference. And the teams below us in the table have all got less possession than we have. There are three parts to this. There's the tactic itself, which, as you can see, has worked very well with Norwich. And then there is the match preparation part, and there is a player roles and responsibilities, which you need to look at prior to the game. If we actually start with the tactic, which you have seen with Norwich works very, very well as a standalone, then what you can see in terms of the tactic is that we are trying to play. We have two tactics. We have our main custom template, which we began the season with, and which we will play with against lower teams with. We have a very strong midfield. That's where our strength is. That's why we are lined up in a 4-1-3-2. Everything I want to play in the middle of the pitch. And we have an advance forward and a pressing forward, or doesn't matter if he's an advance forward as well. Goalkeeper on defend, no additional instructions. Fullbacks have additional instructions. My right back is dribble less, shoot less often, sit narrower, and mark tighter. He is a fullback on support. Remember, this is just a template at this stage, which we begin the week's preparation. We have a ball-playing defender with stay wider and mark tighter, and the other one has no instructions. I have Courtney House on pass it shorter simply because he's not adapting very well to the tactic, and we need to get him to play a shorter passing game. So that I would ignore that. This ball-playing defender has no additional instructions. And then a fullback on support on the left. He's dribble less, shoot less often, sit narrower, and mark tighter. And in front of the defence, we have a ball-winning midfielder on defend, no additional player instructions. And we have a central midfielder on the right on support. He's got shoot less often and tackle harder. And inside him, we will have, in the middle of the field, we've got an advanced playmaker on attack, and he's just got the instruction close down more. And alongside him, we have a box-to-box midfielder who is obviously on support, and he's got dribble less, shoot less often, and tackle harder. Now, up front, as I've said, then the forwards, it doesn't matter. This one, he's only playing as a pressing forward because his manager wants him to play there. So he has no additional instructions. If you're playing another advanced forward, which I would recommend, he would just have the same instructions as the advanced forward you can see, and his instructions are just to tackle harder. It really doesn't matter whether he is playing as a pressing forward or attacking forward, as long as he's got pace. So an advanced forward just have tackle harder as an instruction. That's pretty much the player instructions. We play with a positive mentality, and in possession we're playing fairly wide, although we are instructing them to focus play through the middle. It's a slightly shorter passing directness, and the tempo is slightly higher. And we were going to hit early crosses and dribble less because we don't want our players holding on to the ball. We want to try and move it at a slightly higher tempo and try to get the ball from back to front as fast as our team is capable of doing. And for the first tactic in transition, counter press and counter and distribute to the fullbacks. And then with the lines of engagement, we're obviously going to force our opposition inside. Our strength is in the middle, and that's where we want to play. And we'll have a standard line of engagement and a standard defensive line. There's nothing fancy about this at all. But pressing-wise, because we're not great at pressing, it's just set to slightly more often. And this is kind of the tactic that we will use for teams that we think we have a chance of getting something out of the game. Now, in Swansea's case, this is not many. But against Bristol City, teams like Bristol City and Watford, maybe, we'll use this tactic and be very positive, and we will try and just get out something out of the game. But the secondary tactic is where we think we are much more underdogs and we're not going to get much possession in the game. We need to get possession in order to control the game. And this is where we will change player roles and try to get a little bit more control than we might have with the more positive approach. And so for this one, we will have central defenders on defend. The player instructions are going to be the same. And we're just going to tweak the tactic a little bit. I've got Courtney House on shorter passing, as I said before, because he hasn't adapted to the tactic. And so basically, it's the same system, but we are approaching the game slightly differently now. And once we've done our investigations, we will alter the tactic a little bit. And we still have our central midfield on support, but he might become a central midfield on defend. We also, our fullback is still on support, and he might become a fullback on defend. It really just depends on what we find in the match preparation. And so we might have these two on defend to close down the left-hand side of the pitch, or we might swap them over and have them on the left-hand side to close down that. These instructions are pretty much the same, except now we're going to pass it shorter and have a lower tempo. And we've added be more disciplined to the tactics so that they actually do as they're told a little bit more. We are regrouping now because against the bigger teams, there's no point in trying to counter-press them. We're just going to be running around like headless chickens, and so we're going to save energy and just regroup and allow them to come at us a little bit through the middle as we are still, as we're still going to be forcing them inside to where the team's strength is. This is where we have the bodies on the pitch. And now you'll see that we have a lower line of engagement. Rather than push the lines up to condense the pitch, we've lowered the line of engagement. And people are often afraid to do this, but this is where we want to play the game. And so this is how we're going to try and retain possession a little bit more in the centre of the pitch. Now we have players with pace up front, and hopefully we will score because of the pace we have up front. And we have a standard trigger press now because there's no point in running around against these big teams and just wearing yourself out and getting nothing out of it. So that pretty much we are playing the game in that area of the pitch. We don't want to play anywhere else, and that's what we're going to try and force teams to do. And that's what's causing them the frustration. Because we are getting more possession in this area, they are less able to break us down. And against Manchester United and Chelsea, we saw perfect examples of that. And that's pretty much the tactic. There isn't much more to the tactic than that. But there is, before each game, we will have some match preparation. Now, it doesn't take very long. I know some people don't like doing this, but there's not much that I'm interested in. First thing that I'm interested in is possession. Who we're playing against and how much possession do they have. And we can see that Everton clearly have more possession than we do. So that will indicate to me straight away that I will be using tactic number 2, where I'm going to need to have more possession. And hopefully against Everton, and it's away, we need to be a little bit more defensive and slow the game down. And immediately I can see that they have generally much more possession than we do, and I don't want them having that. So I need to address that and try to win some possession off them. The other thing that I'm going to look at, there's only a couple of things I'm looking at, is in terms of the cross completion. And if I can find it, crosses completed, we can see that they are pretty useful at crossing. So it's the right thing to do to force them inside. I don't want them getting out wide and firing crosses into my penalty area. Although I am going to, with that knowledge, pick some very tall central defenders and my tallest fullback for the far post. The other things I'm interested in is set pieces. How many goals do they score from corners? We can see they don't score. They haven't scored from corners. Also, where are they? They haven't scored at all from direct free kicks. And indirect free kicks, we can also see they haven't scored any from indirect free kicks. In terms of conceding from set pieces, now this is where it gets interesting, because we can see that they have conceded twice from corners in their first 16 games, and they're quite high up the league in that respect. Not as high as us, and in terms of direct free kicks, where indirect free kicks, which is what I'm more interested in, they have conceded one from an indirect free kick. So I'm going to go now to my training. Armed with this information, I'm going to go to my training, and I've already done this for the Everton game. What I've done, as you can see, is I have put in a couple of chance conversion sessions, attacking patient sessions. Now, chance conversion, I'm putting that in because when we play at a lower tempo and less direct, we create less chances. So I want them to work on converting the chances that we might possibly get. We've also put in a little bit of set-piece training. We've got attacking free kicks and attacking corners because they do concede from those. So we've put that into our training schedule. And I'll do this before every match. I will look at their passing, their cross completion, and their set-piece defense and attack. And then I'll make the decision to alter training in some way. And then I'm going to go and have a look at their team report. They do score a lot from through balls. Again, not forcing them outside might create a problem. And it might be that this is going to be a tougher game than actually this tactic can handle. Who knows? They are aggressive and they're good at tackling. And in terms of their weaknesses, there's not really much. They're not greatest of passers of the ball. They're not. Although it does say they're not great at crossing, I don't actually believe that because we've already found out their cross completion rate is 1 in 4, and so I'm not going to say they're not good at crossing. I think we're right to force them inside. They are good at long shots and may need to be careful with the standard line of defence, and at some point may need to push the line up if we are being peppered in front of the goal. I mean, these are things that I'm just making a mental note of at the moment in preparation for the game. So I don't know whether to make any changes at this point. I'm probably not going to do so. I'm still going to try to play the game in that area. We are not going to press them at all. They are a better team than we are. And we're going to hope that the tactic that we've set up, the secondary tactic, is going to pay off. But we might add play for set pieces, but we haven't really decided on that yet. There's not enough evidence to suggest we should be yet. And that's it. That's how we've set the tactic up. But we have to now add our opposition instructions. And the fullbacks, we are going to always, using this, we are going to force them inside. I want them to be coming into the middle of the field where our strength is, and so that means we're going to tight mark them, and we are going to make them turn and onto their left. The right will go onto his left foot, and the left will go onto his right foot. Now the midfield pair, I'm going to probably just press them. They're not technically great players, so I will just press them rather than tight mark them. And then the wingers I'm going to force inside, so I'll show them onto the foot that brings them inside. So for the right winger, I'm going to force him onto his left foot. And if I look at Rick Carlson's foot, both are strong, but I want him to be coming inside, so I don't want him crossing the ball. Even if his right foot is stronger, I don't want him crossing the ball. We're going to tight mark and close down Damari Gray. We always do that with the attacking midfielder, and in this case he's not very brave, so we're going to go in hard on him. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's just such a good player in FM22, and the only thing really I want to do with him is to try and force him onto his weak left foot, and we're going to leave the rest of that, despite my assistant manager saying we should go in hard on him. That's not a very good idea. And so we're just going to show him onto his weaker left foot. And so the opposition instructions are designed to bring them into the middle of the pitch. We will still be vulnerable. They are a very, very good side. And now I will look at the player roles. And my fullbacks, I'm probably just going to, in terms of the centre-backs, I'll probably leave Williams as just on defend. But if we push the line up later on, I'll make him a cover. And I'm going to have the two players, the fullback and the centre midfield, on the right of the pitch on defend. I want to close down the left-hand side of the pitch because I think they might be stronger there. At some point in the game, I may also force Rico further up the pitch if it does turn out that they are weaker on the right than they are on the left. But we'll watch as the game goes on in terms of those little corrections that we're going to make. And then we are set and ready to go to the game. And that will be our preparation done. And it may or may not work. We are not going to win every game, but it seems to be working at the moment, and we tested the tactic part of it with Norwich, and it works absolutely fabulous. They finished in 13th, and so we couldn't ask for any more than that from the tactic part itself. And with that, there was no human interaction in there. It was just purely on the tactic itself. So something's working, and we will be very interested to see how it serves Swansea and how high up the table Swansea can finish with human involvement, the two extra parts that we talked about. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, subscribe, watch, like and comment, and help the channel to grow, and help us to support the very worthwhile cause that you can see scrolling above. And try the tactic out. It worked with Norwich, and it seems to be working with Swansea. And all that remains to be said from me now is enjoy, have a great time playing FM, and hopefully you'll join us on the Swansea save when we try to go beyond what we even thought we could have achieved. Hopefully we'll see some of you there. So for now, we'll see you in the next video.